first one is it creates subjects who are certain and don't back down. I'm right. I know I'm right because I've been a debater, and I've debated this topic at least 5 times, and once I even broke debating this topic. I'm absolutely certain about this. A lot of people don't like this kind of subject position because it's the kind of person who won't let an argument go. And they fear creating that kind of subject position. The second one is a little bit more complex. Debate creates subjects who believe they're in a productive relationship with power. That means the more I debate and the more I get out of debating, the more power I can create for myself, the more powerful I can be later in life. I can become a powerful attorney, or a powerful MP, or a powerful doctor. I don't know. I mean, somebody might think that. There might be something, but it's that debate produces power that you can harness and use, which sort of is a very old 19th century. I know Tuna last night was talking about, I think, the 17th century. I don't think I'm going to go back further than that. I think the 19th century is pretty much where I stop. But it's a very 19th century theory of how power works. Now, if you've read anything by Michel Foucault, you see that power works in a less than productive and harnessable way, and all of us are subject to it. So the idea that you can generate more power for yourself is something that a lot of modern theory would disagree with. And then finally, debate creates civil cynics. And I put this in quotes because this is my phrase, but I'm borrowing a lot from a U.S. scholar, Robert Harriman, who wrote a book called Political Style. And it's a really fantastic book to read. And he talks in there about the civil sneer. The book is all about how different types of governance in different times in history require different style for you to be heard. And so one of the things that in modern democracies like the United States, modern powerful democracies like the United States, you get this civil sneer, which is like, oh yeah, like that'll work. Oh yeah, sure, I think we'll all be rushing to make that happen. Yeah, great. And it's sort of like something that you get like, you get a certain weird pleasure out of joining with other people and critiquing the bureaucracy of the government, or the government's slowness. Oh yeah, that's right, people will definitely stand up against that, I'm sure. So I call it civil cynics because the entire process can turn you into a person who's very cynical about change in the governmental system. So I think people like the U.S. State Department, they worry about these things as well as I do, and as you do. Somebody last night, I don't know if they're here or not, asked Professor Snyder about some of the downfalls or the bad sides of debate, and I would say that these are some of the things that when people think about teaching debate, they think they're creating people like this. And that might not be what we want. I am sort of trying to eradicate debatophobia through the weirdness of what I am interested in. And I would like people to be debatophiles, or debatophilia, right? So I love playing with these Greek words. It's so much fun. Like, one of my favorite classes I took in graduate school was ancient Greek. And although it was kind of a nightmare to study it, I just like all the different words in English that we stole, and it just makes me sound like really smart when I can make words like this, debatophilia. But that's just me having fun. This is what I want to accomplish in my work as an instructor of debate and what I think is important. Debate creates subjects that are uncertain. I don't know about Hungarian politics. I don't know very much about it at all. But I know in my country, in the United States, we really could use a lot of moderates. We really could use some moderates. There's no moderation party in the U.S. There's the Democrats and the Republicans, and both of them think spending billions of dollars on the military is awesome. So if I really don't feel like I want to spend billions of dollars on the military, who should I vote for? It's kind of weird. So we need a lot of moderates, and I'm sure Hungary could benefit from a lot of moderates as well. So debate creates people who are uncertain. That would be the goal of the competition, the goal of the tournament is to be like, it's much, much more important that you have that debate that you feel like the ranking was good, but you can't quite put your finger on what it was that you did wrong or that you did right to get it, and you're very uncertain about the issue. Or you debate a topic, and you felt a certain way about it, and then later on you change your mind about it. And this can happen too. So that kind of uncertainty, I think, is very good. You always want to be the person who's like, well, I'm not really sure about that, or I kind of have some ideas about that, but it would be better to look into it a little bit more, instead of being the sort of the debatophobe person who's like, I know exactly, because at Oxford in round 5 we had this motion, and I got a 2. There you go. There's my expertise. Debate creates subjects that are skeptical of all power relationships. I think this is a really good one. This is, is debate actually giving me stuff, like for free, for having fun? What is the cost of debating? What's it taking from me? What's the power relationship of debate? This is like question 2, right? Question 2 being, who am I when I'm debating? Because you know you're not really yourself. That's why people hate watching themselves debate on video so much. Like, I don't know if you've ever filmed yourself debating. You'd be like, wow, who is that person? You kind of take on this attitude like an actor, or like some kind of dramatic, it's almost like a telenovela kind of dramatic performance. I don't know, some of you might do that or not. But it's like, where does that subject position come from? And what's the price of embodying that subject position? It's taking something from you, but it does it so nicely. It's like, here's a tournament, it's fun, here's all your friends. The topics are cool, the people are smart, the food is good. Everything is, I mean, it's a great fun time. Like the Budapest Open was great fun. But what's the price on your subject position or the way that you think about yourself? Are you freely giving something away that you might want to think about how you are a subject of power and not just the controller or the dominant user of power? And then finally, debate creates ironic subjects. I put this in scare quotes as well because I'm again borrowing from somebody. Creates ironic subjects that question, propose, and then question their proposition. So there's a certain amount of uncertainty. Figure that one out. There's a certain amount of uncertainty that I want in advocacy. And by ironic, I mean that they're very willing to take their position under the knife or take their position under the microscope when they are done with it and say, I wonder if that position that I made in the debate is actually something I can inhabit or not. Ironic I get from the philosopher Richard Rorty. I don't know if maybe some of you have read him. He's sort of a neo-pragmatist. The school of pragmatism, found William James and some of the other, I can't think of some of the other names now, but these Americans who founded pragmatist philosophy. Richard Rorty takes that a step further by saying that in his book, Contingency, Irony, and Solidarity, argued that what democracies need are liberal ironists. People who are willing to debate and are willing to discuss things, but they don't get so incredibly married or attached to their position that they wouldn't consider some other position. It's a very tall order. And in fact, I have a quote by Mercier and Spieber here. Again, I really like these guys. I'm going to quote from them a lot. But this is kind of a longer quote, but it really does kind of supercharge debate's power in the essence of some of these questions about what kind of people do we want to create in debate, or what kind of subject position do you want to have for oneself? What are the politics, little p politics, the things you're able to do as a human being? And ethics, what should you do as a human being, right? The normative dimension. So here's the end of this article, and it's amazing reading this quote. While I'm reading it, remember, these are cognitive scientists talking. This is really kind of mind-blowing. These are people who believe in sort of, evolutionary psychology, the structure of the brain, the chemicals of the brain, the neurons. This is what they say at the end of the article. It's mind-blowing that it comes from brain scientists. And one of them teaches at CEU, which I found out when I was happily citing my paper like a nerd. None of you are going to see it, but the citations are perfect. But I found out that I'm such a nerd. All right, here we go. In the moral domain, moral achievements, such as the abolition of slavery, are the outcome of intense public arguments. We have pointed out that in group settings, reasoning biases can become a positive force and contribute to a kind of division of cognitive labor. Still, to excel in such groups, it may be necessary to anticipate how one's own arguments might be evaluated by others, and to adjust these arguments accordingly. By anticipating objections, one may even be able to recognize flaws in one's own hypotheses and go on to revise them. We have suggested that this depends on a painstakingly acquired ability to exert some limited control over one's own biases. Now, that's a lot of crazy words, but basically what are they saying? They're saying that it's incredibly difficult to overcome your own biases, but that's something that will make your reasoning power better as long as you're doing it in argumentative situations. This sounds like debate to me. Right? This sounds like debate to me, a place where one has to occupy ground of an issue that you might not even know exists or care about, or you might have a position opposite the one you're assigned in the competition. But this is the very thing that these cognitive scientists think is important for you to be able to do in order to become a better subject, a better reasoning subject. Because reason doesn't come first, argument comes first in their mind. That's what their whole paper is about. Reason serves argument. We are not reasonable beings, we are debatable beings. That's our subject position. I think that's a weird thing to think about. Argument comes first. We haven't really thought about that much. Okay, so now comes the super weird part of the talk, which is where I am going to offer an alternative story or an alternative way of thinking about your progress in debate and your progress towards becoming a better debater or better reasoning, argumentative subject. And it's the quest for the arguing mind, Or what was the alternative title? The mind that argues, or there was arguing the mind, or the arguing mind. Either way you want to take it, it's probably true. I did say I wasn't going to go back any further than the 19th century. I lied. We're about to go to 12th century China, and we're going to look at a series of woodblock prints. And a woodblock print is when you take like a log and you carve an image on it, and then you dip it in ink and you can put it on paper and it makes a cool stamp. Like, this is the earliest kind of printing. In the 12th century, a guy named, let's see. Oh, I forget his name. Well, it's somewhere in here. I'll find it eventually. I think it's Kakuan. He created a series of 10 prints about a boy going off into the woods to find an ox. And this was a metaphor for going and finding enlightenment in the Buddhist tradition. These wood blocks have been recopied and copied again, and people have commented on them over the centuries, and they're known as the 10 ox-herding woodcuts. But you could also say cow, I think. But it's an ox, and it's a metaphor for taking control of your mind, for disciplining the mind, so that you can reach a religious state of enlightenment, which is the goal of most every form of Buddhism that I can think of, is that you're either to get enlightenment, that means you figure all things out, and you figure out how to live and how to live in relation with the contingent world, or you stop yourself before that happens, you become a bodhisattva, someone who leads other people to enlightenment before you take it for yourself. So he made these as a teaching method. These are pedagogical pictures that I'm about to show you. And they helped people determine where they were on the path to enlightenment. I would like to adopt the ox-herding woodcuts as a way of thinking about how you're doing in debate, and how far you're going in debate, and what kind of things you need to do to reach the next level of debating. I think that they're kind of interesting for that, and hopefully you'll play along with me as I offer a defensive debate that has nothing to do with really critical thinking or becoming a better democratic citizen, but more of finding yourself and finding what it is that you